A lot has been made about Josh Allen and the Bills in general for that playoff loss to Cincinnati. But, I kind of wanted to go back and say how much of it was actually his fault. Was it him that was struggling, or was it just a tough situation that, most people wouldn't be able to succeed in? Or was it a combination of both? Well, let's get into it. Let's talk about what actually went wrong in this one. This first play is kind of a good example of, what I think maybe a kind of a good microcosm of the game itself and what went wrong altogether. So the way it's going to work is it's zone coverage that the Bengals are in, and you have a receiver who's going to eventually kind of try to get into a gap in coverage. That's the way this play is designed to work. Right when this play begins, there is good news and bad news right here. The bad news, there is pressure right in Josh Allen's face. But the good news is this play is sort of a half second away from succeeding. Again, it was a bit of a longer developing play, which is part of what allowed the pressure to get here. But yeah, anyway, at this point, Allen, if he can sort of make a good throw under pressure, they could pick up a decent completion here. However, Allen under pressure ends up missing this throw, throws it too far deep. And again, there's several ways you could look at that. You could look at that and say, oh, that's just a bad play from Allen. And, again, at the end of the day, if you're in a big playoff game with, two teams that are trying to win a Super Bowl, the reality is you need your quarterback to make some tough plays. They're going to have to make some tough throws. You're going to be in situations where pressure gets there. You're playing a good football team. But at the same time, the pressure did get there, and that kind of screwed things up a little bit. So, there's several ways you could look at it. But, yeah, it's of course not, it's never as simple as it's all one player's fault. We know that. But there were also plays like this that were just not Josh Allen's fault at all. Like something where, maybe you could argue that there's something he could have done where, anyway, it's going to be zone coverage. And, really it's going to be Allen's first read. It's going to be just Diggs running a very underneath route that could gain you a few yards. Allen takes the snap. He's going to look in that direction, and Diggs is open, I guess. It could gain you a yard or two. To be honest, I don't know if this is really worth the throw. Things could go wrong. A defender could come in, get his hand on it, get the interception, something like that. Allen, in some ways, I think is doing the right thing by not making this throw. I actually do think he's doing the right thing by not making this throw. The issue is that there's now a Cincinnati player who's going to have a straight shot to get to Allen. Watch him run through, and he completely flushes Allen out of the pocket to where he has no choice but to just throw the football away. So first read doesn't work the way you want to, and then the pressure comes, and that was kind of the story of the game for the Cincinnati Bengals and for the Buffalo Bills. And to me, this is an actively good play by Josh Allen. It is. This is a good play by him to get the incompletion. A lot of quarterbacks have things go a lot worse than that. Now, that's not to say that this was the entire game or anything like that either. I want to be very clear. There were times where you could point the finger at Josh Allen. I think this play is going to be a good example of it. Watch how when this play begins. Looks like Allen looks down the field but doesn't love what he sees. Also has to kind of, navigate a pocket a little bit. But hey, still has pressure relatively deep into the play. The issue is nothing is really open downfield. There's maybe a receiver who he could throw to towards the top of the screen. But you know what? You also have a check down that looks pretty interesting. So maybe just hit that check down. I don't disagree with that. However, this is a high throw and a hard throw that ends up going incomplete. Some people will call that a drop. Hey, you're in the NFL. You got to catch a ball if it hits you in the hands. But you know what? And sure, listen, it's still a ball that could have been caught, but it also could have been a lot easier of a catch to be made had Allen not thrown it there in such a hurry and high. Again, that combination is, I think people underrate how tough it is to make those types of catches. Adjusting quickly, getting your hands there, and, being able to make the play at the same time, while now you're in kind of a more difficult, unusual way to catch a football and, not a primary pass catcher. It's a halfback there. Those are just difficult catches to make. Still, you're in the NFL. You got to make some difficult catches, but I think both are to blame for that play, is how I would phrase it. And you also have stuff like this where what's going to happen, this was the play that, Josh Allen haters were bringing up because this was a bad play. It just was. You have Gabe Davis running a route on the outside, one-on-one matchup. Watch what happens. Look at how right when this play begins, look at how open it is. This is a dream scenario. Game's kind of a blowout at this point anyway, but, you'd love to get a touchdown, get back into it. It's third down right here, and just watch the throw. As you see, it's just underthrown, and that was kind of a one that definitely got held against Josh Allen in a massive way, which I do understand. I think it's fair to say several things about this game. I don't think it's fair to say that this was, a great situation that Allen just struggled in. No, that's not the case. The Bengals defense came to play. They put Allen in difficult positions consistently, but even when they didn't, there were times when Allen messed up. Allen did not have his best game. We know him as kind of a volatile player, and this was not his worst game, by far not his worst game, but maybe a bit of a disappointment from what we expect. But as a whole, that was kind of just a big issue with Josh Allen, was that, he had a couple of disappointing throws in it, and then he was also in just a difficult position consistently. I thought those were kind of the main things that went wrong for the Buffalo Bills. I guess this play could be one other kind of potential issue that happened, was just they weren't able to make the tough plays either. Sometimes these are the plays that they're able to, do with ease that they weren't able to do is, hey, sometimes you're in a tough situation and got to just find a way to make stuff happen. Like this play, it's going to be the outside threat. That's where they want to go here. It's going to be Stephon Diggs on the outside who's, running a route where, hey, there could be a window here. It's Eli Apple on Diggs. You hope that it works. Right when this play begins, Apple was giving so much space at the line right there that he's still in pretty good position. And, I'll give him credit, is also reading this play well and is in position. But, Josh Allen saying, hey, let's take this chance here. Allen fires one, and, it's a bit too high, and Diggs isn't quite able to make the grab. I mean, again, typically those guys are able to make those types of plays happen, and they just weren't able to do it in this football game. So, yeah, I mean, what have we learned from this game? Because typically we like to look at these games, not necessarily just to bash the team that lost, but to sort of say, okay, a great indicator of the future is the past. What happened in this game? How can that predict the future? I really don't think much. I mean, for one thing, you see the snow on the ground. It's possible that just the cold kind of affected him a little bit, which, I mean, you play in Buffalo, you're going to have cold games, but still, maybe it was just one of those weird games where where that happened, although he has had good games in the cold as well. I kind of think it's just one game. I don't read into it too much, but that's just kind of how I view it. I think the reality is, Josh Allen has had worse games than this, certainly, and, it's just one of those things where if you have a disappointing playoff performance, if a team has a disappointing playoff performance, it's going to be the quarterback who is the one who gets all the blame. I mean, it goes the other way too, right? When your team wins, the quarterback gets all the credit, right? That's the blessing and curse. But I do think that had a big part to do with it, was the team's failure kind of became his failure a bit. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.